Welcome back to Truth Serum. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into all the buzz surrounding Pope Francis.
Oh, yeah.
Is he really okay?
Right.
Or is there something more to the story?
Yeah.
It seems like everyone online has a theory these days.
Yeah.
From TikTok to YouTube.
Yeah.
Some are even saying The Simpsons predicted it all.
Wow.
It's gotten wild out there.
It certainly has captured the public's imagination.
Yeah.
Pope Francis is a global figure.
Right.
So naturally, when there's uncertainty about his health, it sparks a lot of concern and, well, speculation.
Exactly. So before we get to all the theories,
Yeah.
let's ground ourselves in what we actually know
Right.
about the Pope's situation.
The official word is that Pope Francis, who is 88 years old,
Wow.
was hospitalized on February 14th for double pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's a serious illness,
Yeah.
especially at his age.
Yeah.
The Vatican has been releasing statements and even shared a photo and an audio message from the Pope to assure everyone.
Okay, so we have these official updates, but that hasn't stopped the rumor mill, has it?
Yeah.
What are some of the more common conspiracy theories floating around out there?
Well, one of the most prevalent ones is that Pope Francis has actually passed away,
Oh, wow.
and the Vatican is covering it up.
Wow.
They point to things like the vague language in the Vatican statements,
Yeah.
or question whether the photo and audio message could have been pre-recorded.
I see how that could raise some eyebrows.
And then there's the timing of it all.
Right.
His hospitalization happened just a few weeks before the anniversary of his papacy,
Yeah,
a significant event for the Catholic Church.
of course.
Some believe this proximity is just too suspicious to be a coincidence.
So it's not just about the updates themselves,
Right.
but also the context surrounding them.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there any other major theories we should be aware of?
Another theory draws parallels to the death of Pope John Paul I back in 1978,
Right.
which was shrouded in mystery. This historical event adds fuel to the fire for those who believe the Vatican might not always be entirely transparent.
It's interesting how these theories often tap into existing anxieties or historical precedents to make them seem more believable.
Absolutely. And we can't ignore the role of social media in all of this.
Right.
Platforms like TikTok are breeding grounds for this kind of speculation,
Yeah.
where sensational content spreads quickly,
Right.
whether it's accurate or not.
It's like a digital echo chamber, amplifying those concerns and making them seem more widespread than they might be.
Right. Plus, there's a general distrust of institutions these days,
Sure.
especially those with a history of secrecy like the Vatican.
Yeah.
This pre-existing skepticism makes people more receptive to alternative explanations,
Yeah.
even if they are conspiracy theories.
It seems like a perfect storm of factors is converging here. A beloved global figure,
Yes.
uncertainty about his health, a distrust of institutions,
Yeah.
and the speed at which information and misinformation travels online.
It's a potent mix.
Yeah.
And it's understandable why these theories gain traction.
Okay, so we've unpacked the theories and the factors contributing to their spread.
Right.
But what about the other side of the coin?
Yeah.
Why do some people believe the Vatican is being truthful?
Well, they point to the Vatican's consistent effort to provide updates and release the photo and audio message as signs of transparency. They argue that if there were a cover-up, it would be incredibly risky and could seriously damage the church's credibility.
That's a good point. And wouldn't a cover-up of this magnitude be incredibly difficult to pull off?
Yeah.
Especially in today's world,
Right.
where information travels so quickly.
Exactly. Plus, double pneumonia,
Wow.
while serious, is treatable.
Right.
It's entirely possible for someone, even at the Pope's age,
Yeah.
to recover with proper medical care.
Yeah.
They argue that some people might be reading too much into the situation.
And maybe the simplicity of the audio message is a sign of its authenticity.
Yeah.
Perhaps Pope Francis, focused on his recovery and prayer, didn't want to make a big production out of it.
That's another valid interpretation.
Right.
Sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely one.
Yeah.
It's all about weighing the evidence and considering different perspectives.
It's fascinating how we can look at the same set of facts and come to such different conclusions.
It really highlights how our existing beliefs and biases can shape our interpretation of events,
Right.
especially when there's a degree of uncertainty involved.
This is where it gets really intriguing for me.
Yeah.
We have these two seemingly opposing narratives,
Right.
and both have their own internal logic and supporting arguments.
Yeah,
It's up to each of us to decide what we find more convincing.
absolutely.
What stands out to you, listener, as you
Yeah.
listen to this.
It's a reminder that truth can be elusive.
Yeah,
especially in a world saturated with information
right.
and sometimes misinformation. It underscores the importance of critical thinking and carefully evaluating the information we encounter.
And that's precisely what makes this deep dive so captivating.
Yeah.
It's not about blindly accepting one side or the other,
Right.
but about engaging with the information,
Yeah.
the arguments,
Yeah,
and ultimately forming our own informed opinions.
absolutely.
And that's something we'll continue to unpack together as we dive deeper into this story.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
of course.
We'll be right back after a short break.
It's a testament to the enduring power of belief and the human need to make sense of the unknown, even when the answers are complex and the lines between fact and fiction can get blurred.
It's like a real-life mystery unfolding before our eyes, and we're all trying to piece together the puzzle with the limited information we have. It's almost like those true crime documentaries that have everyone hooked, where everyone has their theory about who did it.
I see the parallel. It's about more than just the facts. It's about how we interpret those facts and the narratives we construct around them. And in this case, you have the added layers of faith, global politics, and the historical weight of the papacy. It's a lot to unpack.
Definitely. And I think that's what makes this whole situation so compelling for people. It's not just about the health of one man. It's about the implications for a global institution, for millions of believers around the world, and for the future of the Catholic Church.
It raises some pretty big questions. If the conspiracy theories turn out to be true, what would that mean for the Church's credibility? How would it impact the trust between the Vatican and its followers?
And what about the process of choosing a new pope? Would it be seen as legitimate if there were doubts about the circumstances surrounding the previous pope's death? I mean, we're talking about a centuries-old institution with very specific traditions and protocols.
It would undoubtedly lead to a period of uncertainty and potentially even instability within the Church. It could also fuel further distrust in institutions, not just religious ones, but across the board.
It's a sobering thought, and it highlights the ripple effects that something like this could have. But of course, this is all speculation. We have to acknowledge that the Vatican has denied these theories, and they've provided their own account of events.
Right. And to be fair, there are valid arguments to be made in support of the Vatican's position. They've been relatively transparent with their updates, and it's not unreasonable to believe that the Pope could recover from pneumonia. After all, medical science has advanced significantly, and even at his age, recovery is possible.
And as you mentioned earlier, a cover-up of this scale would be incredibly difficult to maintain, especially in our hyper-connected world.
Exactly. Leaks happen, people talk, and information finds a way of getting out. So it's not just about whether the Vatican could pull off a cover-up, but whether they would even want to, given the potential risks.
It's a gamble with incredibly high stakes. If they were exposed, the damage to their reputation would be immeasurable.
It would be a catastrophic blow to their authority and could even lead to a crisis of faith for many Catholics.
So if we're playing devil's advocate here, wouldn't it make more sense for the Vatican to be upfront, even if the news is difficult?
From a purely strategic perspective, it would seem so much. Transparency, even when it's painful, can help maintain trust and ultimately strengthen an institution in the long run.
That's an interesting point. So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this complex landscape of competing narratives and information?
I think it comes down to a few key things. First, we have to acknowledge that we're dealing with a situation where definitive answers may be elusive. We may never know the full truth.
Which can be frustrating, especially in our age of instant information and the expectation of immediate gratification.
Absolutely. But it's a reality we have to accept. Second, we need to be critical of all information we encounter, whether it comes from the Vatican social media or anywhere else.
It means looking beyond the headlines, examining the sources, and considering potential biases.
Exactly. And finally, we should be open to changing our minds as new information emerges. This isn't about picking a side and digging in our heels. It's about engaging in a process of ongoing critical inquiry.
So in a sense, this deep dive isn't just about the Pope. It's about how we approach information and form our own beliefs in a world where truth can feel increasingly slippery.
Well said. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to be discerning consumers of information and to engage in thoughtful dialogue, even when the topics are challenging and the answers are unclear.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And what I find so fascinating about this whole situation is that it forces us to confront our own assumptions about power, authority, and the institutions we trust, or perhaps distrust.
It's a mirror reflecting back at us, not just the complexities of the Vatican, but our own relationship with belief, truth, and uncertainty.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important truths are are the ones we discover within ourselves, through the process of questioning, exploring, and engaging with the world around us.
That's where true understanding begins and where the real journey of discovery lies.
And speaking of journeys, I'd love to hear from you, our listener. Where do you stand on this? What resonates with you most about this conversation? What questions are you left pondering? We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? From the official updates to the swirling conspiracy theories, from the historical context to the role of social media. It's been quite a ride.
It has, and I think what's striking is how this story taps into so many fundamental human concerns, our need for certainty, our relationship with authority, and our search for truth in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
It's like this situation with Pope Francis has become a lens through which we're examining not just the Vatican, but our own beliefs and the way we process information in the digital age.
Precisely. And what I find particularly interesting is how this case highlights the tension between faith and reason, between accepting official narratives and questioning those in power. It's a tension that has existed throughout human history, but it feels particularly potent in our current moment.
It's almost as if the Pope's health crisis has become a Rorschach test, with people projecting their own beliefs and anxieties onto the situation.
That's a great analogy. And it speaks to the power of narratives, the stories we tell ourselves and each other to make sense of the world. Whether we choose to believe the Vatican or embrace the conspiracy theories, we're essentially constructing narratives that align with our existing worldview.
It's a reminder that we're all susceptible to biases, and that even the most critical thinkers can fall prey to confirmation bias, seeking out information that reinforces what we already believe.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so crucial to engage with diverse perspectives, to challenge our own assumptions, and to be willing to change our minds when presented with new evidence. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about embracing the complexities of truth and acknowledging that our understanding of the world is always evolving.
I think that's a powerful message to take away from this deep dive. It's not just about Pope Francis or the Vatican. It's about all of us as individuals navigating a world saturated with information, misinformation, and competing narratives.
Yeah. It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism, honing our critical thinking skills, and engaging in thoughtful dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable or challenging. It's about recognizing that truth is often a process, not a destination.
Beautifully put. So as we wrap up this episode, I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought. What if the most valuable outcome of this whole situation isn't finding definitive answers, but rather the questions it raises about ourselves, about our relationship with truth, and about the way we engage with the world around us?
I think that's a profound insight. Sometimes the most illuminating discoveries come from embracing the unknown and allowing ourselves to sit with uncertainty.
And who knows, maybe that very act of questioning, exploring, and grappling with these complex issues is what ultimately brings us closer to a more nuanced understanding of truth, even if we never fully unravel the mystery of Pope Francis's health.
Perhaps that's the ultimate truth serum, the willingness to embrace the journey even when the destination remains uncertain.
This has been a fascinating discussion. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We always appreciate your time and insights. And before we go, we'd love to hear from you. What other mysteries, controversies, or truth serums would you like us to explore in future episodes? Drop us a line, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the intriguing, the perplexing, and the downright baffling.